And hello, everybody. Welcome to the HOU.SEC.CAST, the HOU.SEC.CON podcast. This is episode 30. As usual, Sam and I are here together to talk to a really cool person about really cool things. Sam, who are we talking to today?
Today, we get to talk to Don Cappelli, who is at Dragos running our OT CERT program.
I'm very excited about this. I know we do OT stuff from time to time on here, but this has a whole different feel to me, like the community help, getting people the help they need in OT cybersecurity, because it's kind of a different world than IT. So I love this.
Yeah, and I think the whole community focus here very much in line with what we do at HOU.SEC.CON, right? What we're focused on trying to build out the community and help and give resources. So I'm excited, and not to mention her origin story is pretty dang amazing.
Wait, do not, yeah, I mean, do not miss that. It is fantastic. Dawn has got a great story, a lot of good life lessons for all of us in cyber, and not even at cyber, just in general, good life lessons on how to look at your career and move along in your career and not be afraid and so on and so forth. So, all right, well, let's quit yapping between the two of us and let's go talk to Dawn.
Let's go.
All right, see you there. And we're back. Sam, how you doing, sir?
Muy excelente. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Got a lot of energy. Slept well last night. Ready to rock and roll.
That's half the battle.
So, who's our guest today, Sam?
I'm excited to have Dawn Cappelli on the podcast today. I get to work with her, and she's so it's very proud to call her part of our team at Dragos, and so super excited to have her. And she did an amazing session at HOU.SEC.CON this year, and we'll talk about that too today. But I think this is going to be a great conversation.
I'm excited. Welcome, Dawn.
Hello, thanks.
Yeah, glad to have you on here. So, for everybody who doesn't know, Dawn is the head of OT CERT at Dragos, like Sam said. Works with him on probably a lot. I don't know about daily basis, but a lot. And Dawn did some really good stuff at HOU.SEC.CON. So we will talk about that later, Dawn. As everybody who else is on this listens to this knows, we go through the HOU.SEC.CON segment. But we're excited to have you on. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's talk HOU.SEC.CON, Sam. So first of all, our user group, that has been extremely popular. We had a really good user group here in the last one with all about whistleblowing and all kinds of crazy stuff with David Taxer. It was a really good presentation. Really enjoyed that. A lot of good discussion with it. We've got our final one for the year. We're not going to have anybody talking at you or any of that stuff. We're just going to have fun. So we're going to have a holiday party at Cidercade instead of doing a regular presentation. That's going to be on December 19th. So if you sign up, don't go to our regular place or nobody will be there to greet you. Go to Cidercade. When you signed up, you'll get all the info, but it's got arcades and it's got cider. So it's called Cidercade. Interesting, but it's a lot of fun. So it'll be free to the community. We'll have food, drinks, unlimited games when you get to go there. When you go there, we are going to prepay for this event. So please Please register. If you show up, you're not going to get like the little name or the little arm badge thing or any of that stuff, armband. You're not going to be able to join us. So please sign up for it. And if you cannot make it, please cancel your ticket for anybody who can't make it. We're just trying to make sure we're spending our money wisely here, but having a good time too. All right. What's next, Sam?
Well, we have HOU.SEC.CON coming up, right? That's on the 17th of April at Norris Conference Center. So we've done that the same place as last year. We'll have the tickets go on sale here. Well, they should be going on sale here any minute now, right? So we're in December, so they should be on sale sometime at this point. If not yet, it will be in the next few days. And then we're going to have, with that, we're going to do the two-step process again, just because we're trying to make sure we have the right audience in there. We're really focusing on trying to get owner operators in there, both from the cyber side, but also from the plant side. We want people, we want the engineers, we want the plant engineers in the room. The whole idea here is to get everybody together to talk and understand each other's language, so we're more effective across the board on both sides of that firewall, right? We'll have 2 tracks. So we're going to have one that's more strategy focused and one that's more technical. So they will have 2 different ways, 2 different options as you're there. And then we'll be opening the call for papers in the beginning of January, and that'll be through the whole month of January, so that we can get everything closed and the agenda set up and collected by the 17th of February.
Yep. A lot of work to get done. Yeah, we got another one coming out. We got our HOU.SEC.CON the week after HOU.SEC.CON. Different audience, but we wanted to put both of these before spring break, before the summer, all that good stuff. So that's on April 22nd. That's at the Marriott Marquis in downtown Houston, our old HOU.SEC.CON stomping grounds. Tickets are going to go on sale in December for that as well. It's going to be another 2-step process. We're not going to have a call for papers for this. We curate this agenda a little more. We may do that in the future, but right now we're curating that agenda. And we still have sponsorships available for that. So please, if you want to sponsor that, get on board ASAP, because those do not last long. And then final update, Sam.
Yeah. HOU.SEC.CON, right? So we've got that. We'll have tickets going on sale here early in January. There will be a different pricing model. We're going to be doing some early bird pricing type stuff so we can get folks to sign up early. We tend to get that last surge at the end of it, trying to help us plan a little bit. So if you get your tickets early, you'll get a better deal out of it. Then we'll have our call for presenters, call for papers through May. So that'll be the entire month of May. And so that we can get the agenda up early enough for everybody as well on that one. So you have a full view of what you're going to get from that. And there we have a lot of sponsorships available at this point that usually fills out early or mid-year. So jump on that right away. We will have some more slots available, but definitely important to get your package, your contract in soon if you're going to be a sponsor, which we greatly appreciate.
Absolutely. And just so you know, I've co-signed several sponsorship prospecti. I don't know what the plural there is. But I've signed a bunch of them in the last couple of weeks. So those are already going before the end of 2024 for the 2025 event. That's not happening until September and October of 2025. So those will go and will sell out. So please jump on that. Okay. Anything else, Sam? I think that covers it, right?
That's it. Let's get to the good stuff.
Let's get to the good stuff. Well, let's get to the good stuff that's not as good as the stuff we're going to talk to Dawn about, but we're still going to let this. Dawn's going to be included in this segment here. So we're going to go news segment, and Sam, you brought this article to us, so I'm going to let you introduce it to us, and then we'll talk through it.
Yeah. So this article this time was about and linked in the show notes, right? We've got it's about a bunch of devices this is in the Hacker News November 21st date. So 145,000 industrial control systems across 175 countries found exposed online. So first reaction is, oh, okay, what else is new, right? But and that's kind of the concept. Like the thing is, it keeps popping up. People are still continuing to do the research, which is good. We need to have the visibility of the research. But the reason I bring that up, first of all, that's my day job. I love industrial systems, and that's what Dawn and I do all the time, and where our passion is. And it's really important to keep addressing it. We have to keep pushing, to get coverage here. But I think the bigger thing for me was when I see that headline, the first part of reaction is, okay, a little sensationalist, and I don't mean that in a bad way. We still need to be alert to it. People are doing good things. Like the people I work with, the organizations I work with are really trying hard to address this and are doing a really good job getting there. So I don't want this to be a big fear, uncertainty, and doubt moment, right? You should understand that people are doing what they can. And this kind of ties back to what we're going to talk about in a little bit with Dawn, right? Of what she came to HOU.SEC.CON for. But this is my thing is here. Hey, it's still happening. It's still the same problem as it was 5, 10, 20 years ago, only we're seeing more visibility on it. And but it's not the end of the world either.
Dawn, any thoughts on this one?
Yes, I was going to say, can I interject? The problem is that a lot of these devices are in small organizations, and a lot of those small organizations are critical, like water, wastewater, small rural power. And they not only are exposed to the internet, but they also, many of them have default passwords, which
Mhm.
have made them easy pickings for cyber attacks. So in the past year, actually, it was last year, Thanksgiving week, when the cyber avengers attacked Aliquippa Water, which is, I'm in Pittsburgh. Sorry, I'm not in Houston, but I'm in Pittsburgh, and Aliquippa is right outside of Pittsburgh. So that hit really close to home. And that was the first. And then it just continued throughout the rest of 23 and 2024. We saw the Cyber Avengers, Cyber Army of Russia Reborn, Hunter Killers. We see these hacktivist groups that this is easy for them. You know, it was reported in that article, how easy was it for Census to come up with a list? Well, they can come up with the same list. And if you have default passwords, it's very easy to exploit those.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't want to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but somehow we have to get the word to those small and medium organizations that think, who would ever want to hit me? We're little. They want the big guys.
Well, Dawn, first of all, I want to say you said easy pickings, just like you were in Texas. It sounded very Southern.
Very
So
proud of you. Very proud of you. So,
we just got to get you saying y'all and we'll be good.
Oh, we say yins in Pittsburgh.
Yin? Oh,
I don't say yins, but that is the plural of you in Pittsburgh.
I'd not heard that one. I remember didn't live there, but was really close to proximity of Missouri, and they always said Ewans. I've not heard yins. That's an interesting. But second of all, you're absolutely right. This is easy pickings. And what's interesting about your point of this being small organizations is this is where IT in a lot of ways has not gotten any better than OT and has been a large problem. Just the routers with default passwords, and it's usually small organizations that put those in place, or small branch offices of larger organizations that put those in place. So there's not a lot of difference here between the two as far as the exposure goes, but the impact, absolutely. I mean, the wastewater plants, all of those, you wonder why they get attacked. You wonder why they're able to get into those sessions easier, because it drives me a little mad, because it's like, I don't understand. And I know it's not everybody's mindset, and it sounds like I'm blaming people. I am maybe a little bit, but it's like, you don't understand. This affects so many more people than just a router being exposed on the internet for, some little branch office that doesn't have much of anything to be worried about. This is wastewater. You got a whole neighborhood who relies on this, or several neighborhoods. It's a little maddening, but I don't think it's FUD. I think it's just frustrating. So,
yeah. And I think it was in that article where it talks about, like, the DoD has been looking at small water utilities that service their military bases. And well, what about, and maybe I read that in a different article, but what about all of the companies and the other, critical infrastructure organizations that also can't operate without water? This is not just something that we can say, oh, I live in the big city, so I don't really care because my water company's big. Well, what about all of the rest of the country that relies on those small water utilities or power?
and this was all over the world too. I mean, these were places all over. So you're talking not just the U.S. You're talking about international security. It's a big deal. So,
And here at Dragos, I've been working with our threat intel team because they do threat hunts, and they have found numerous organizations with these exposed OT devices. And sometimes they find them just because they find them. They don't know that they've been compromised. But in other cases, they know they have been compromised. And so they come to OT CERT, which we'll talk about, and to see, can you help us notify them? And it's hard because these are small organizations. We can't pick up the phone and say, hello, we're Dragos. We're here to help. You've been compromised by, a cyber attacker. They're not going to listen. So if they're a member of OT.SEC.CON, we can contact them because they know us. If they're a member of our community defense program, we can reach out. They know us. But otherwise, we go through CISA in the US. We have contacts in other governments around the world. And then last resort, we go through the CERT Coordination Center at Carnegie Mellon, and they have contacts at all of the national certs and CSerts around the world, and they help us. But it's definitely happening. They're not just exposed, they are also being compromised.
Well, it's got to be exposed to have them easy to hit. And that's people are going to go after the soft targets. Makes sense. All right. Well, Sam, I'm not used to saying this, but thank you for scaring all of us to death. Not really. We need to know this.
It's my turn. It's my turn this time, right?
It's your turn to scare everybody. No, people need to know this. I mean, they really do. It needs to. We're never going to get this solved if we don't have it exposed. So we're doing our part.
But the good news is we have. What do you do about it?
Absolutely.
That's the next part.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we are going to take a break, everybody. On the other side of this break, we are going to talk to and about Dawn. Give her story about everything she does in this industry, her background, and we're going to talk about OT.SEC.CON. So we'll see everybody on the other side of the break.
And we're back. Today we are talking again to Dawn Cappelli and of Dragos, one of my coworkers. Welcome, Dawn. We're really excited to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Dawn, we like to start the conversation typically with your origin story. And you have an amazing career. And I've had the pleasure of talking to you about some of this stuff before. Like to get the word out. Like, tell how did you get to where you were? I mean, what was your past? How did you get to cyber? And how did you get into ICS?
I have a very interesting career path, very unplanned. I started my career programming nuclear power plants. I did love programming. That was fun. Ended up going to Carnegie Mellon University for better home work-life balance after I started my family, continued as a software engineer, and ended up working on this project for the Center for Disease Control, National Guard, on building a portal for emergency response in case of a bioterrorism attack. And this was in the late 90s. So back then, the internet was not what it is now. It was a big deal to try and get the FBI, National Guard, hospitals, doctors, CDC, all collaborating, sharing information in this portal. And so it was a really fun project. But at the end, in like 2000, I thought, it's kind of interesting. This is a portal for a bioterrorism attack, and nobody thought about security. I think that we should think about security of that portal. So I thought, well, CERT, the original CERT Coordination Center, was at Carnegie Mellon, and I thought, I think I'll try to get a job there and learn about security. And so I knew nothing about security, but they kind of knew me, and they said, well, we'll hire you as a project manager, and you can learn about security on the job. So I took that job, and the project that I got to manage, they had just gotten a contract with the Secret Service. Then their physical protection was gates, guards, guns, nothing cyber. But they realized we probably ought to be thinking about cyber. For instance, if the president goes to the 10th floor of a hotel, we secure 9, 10, and 11. But Otis Elevator can remotely access that elevator. So what if either an insider threat at Otis or an external attacker gets access to that elevator, takes them to the 20th floor where the assassin is waiting? So I thought, this is the coolest job in the world. I can't believe I got this job. The first thing that we had to protect was the Salt Lake City Olympics. So here I am. I have no cyber experience, and I get to work with the Secret Service protecting the Olympics. And I thought, this is the coolest job in the world. I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. That was August 1st, 2001. September 11th, 2001 was less than a month and a half later. And all of a sudden, that cool, fun job became very, very real because the intelligence community thought for sure the next terrorist attack was going to be the Olympics. So suddenly that cool, fun job became very scary. And it influenced my whole life because it awakened this passion in me to protect. And I realized how serious this job was. And I felt like I was put in this job for a reason. I was in the right place at the right time. So, started working with the team, went to Salt Lake City, and there's a team poring over network diagrams, trying to figure out how could someone hack in and either bring down the games or harm the attendees. And suddenly someone just happened to ask, so have you had any system administrators or network administrators leave on bad terms that might already just know how to get into the network and still have access? And they said, we'll go get you a list. And they came back with a list of 20 people. And this is the International Olympic Committee. So they're from all over the world, including the Middle East, where the terrorists had come from. So they said, the Secret Service said, we need two teams. We need an insider threat team and an external threat team. And I said, well, I'll take the insider threat team. This is people. I feel more comfortable with people. I know nothing about cybersecurity. So worked on what could an insider do. And that was easier for me, being that I had experience as a programmer. I had been a system administrator in that role. So I had it was much more comfortable for me. And I ended up, after the Olympics were safe, the Secret Service decided we should do an insider threat study. So we worked, the people at CERT, the team at CERT, with behavioral psychologists from the Secret Service, and did this insider threat study. And it was fascinating. So I ended up becoming the director and the founder of the CERT Insider Threat Center, spent 13 years of my life on insider threat, wrote a book. And then Rockwell Automation came along and said, we want you to come and build an insider risk program for us. And I couldn't resist. I had an opportunity to take all that academic and research knowledge that I had gained and actually put it into practice. So I went to Rockwell, built this global insider risk program. It won an award from the Society of Women Engineers. And then our CISO retired. He left and said, I told them that you're my successor. And I said, I don't want to be your successor. I don't want to be a CISO. I love my job. Why would I become a CISO? But long story short, I became the CISO. And we designed our IT security strategy. Sorry if I'm talking too long.
No, please go. This is great.
And then I said, so, okay, we have this IT security strategy. Who's responsible for those plants? And they said, oh, you are. And I said, what? I know nothing about ICS. What do you mean I'm responsible? So, what could I do? I had to come up with a strategy for that as well. So we came up with our OT security strategy. We were ahead of the game. We started this in January of 17. WannaCry and NotPetya hit in May and June. So we were about 6 months ahead of the curve. At that point, a lot of Rockwell customers, especially large ones, realized, oh boy, we make cookies or we make bottled water. We never thought anybody would want to attack us, but I guess we need an OT security strategy. So I worked with our sales team and said, why don't we pull together all of these CISOs from these companies that are going down the same path we are, and let's work together instead of everybody trying to figure it out ourselves. So I created this OT CISO group, we called it. So I had the opportunity to work across many different sectors and work with these CISOs on how do you build an OT security strategy. And so I became very passionate about OT. But after 6 years as CISO, I retired. I always say people need to like really appreciate their CISOs because it is enormously stressful. And so after 6 years, I retired, but I only retired for less than 2 months because in my role at Rockwell, I became very passionate, there's that word again, about small and medium businesses because we started getting letters from suppliers saying, we were hit with ransomware. It'll take us at least a month to recover. We have no idea how long it'll take to get you our product. And I thought, geez, our own plants might have to shut down because these suppliers are being hit with ransomware. That was a third party risk I had never thought about before. So we did an assessment of we got a list of the top 50 and then the top 100 critical suppliers from our supply chain org and did assessments on them and found the small and mediums, if they had IT security, they were lucky, but they had no OT security. And so they were sitting ducks for ransomware. So that kind of became my new passion. And everywhere I spoke, I would say somebody has to help these small and medium businesses. I can point them to free resources for IT security, but there's nothing out there for OT security that's free. And so Rob Lee, our CEO at Dragos, he gave me a call and said, hey, I hear you're retiring. I know you're very passionate about small and medium businesses. I'd like you to come to Dragos and start OT Cert. And so you can be the one to help them with free resources, to help them to build an OT cybersecurity program. So that is how I got to where I am.
That's a perfect segue into the next part.
Fantastic. And this is the whole thing about all this. Everybody's got such a unique path to where they end up.
Yeah.
And if you spend 30 minutes on social media, LinkedIn or whatever, you hear everybody trying to recommend this is the way to get into cyber or whatever.
Yeah.
There is no one way prescription of how you get in. Right. And this is amazing. But I think one of the key things that you said, Dawn, is key for if Michael and myself and anybody we work with, the word is passion. And if you have the passion, that's what drives you to get into this. It's a great, great story.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. Anytime I interview anyone for a security job, that's what I look for. And if I don't see passion, I don't want them, because as long as you have a passion for security, you're going to be a team player. You're going to jump in there and do whatever it takes. But if you don't have that,
how many times in that story did you say, I know nothing about that, but I'll do it? And you learned and you picked it up and you ran with it and you figured it out. And that's the best kind of experience that's the best kind of experience in my experience. If you jump in with both feet and you learn something, then you know it better than most people who learned it because you even said you had this book knowledge and this knowledge where you did all the research, but then when you actually got to put it into practice, there are all these things that you had never thought of. Just things pop up that you never know or never knew when you're just researching a topic. It's amazing.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. You have to not be afraid to jump into something new. I was afraid to go to Dragos. I mean, I was going from a CISO at a Fortune 500 company to going to a late stage startup where very different culture, very different. And it was scary to me. So, yeah.
You can be afraid, just right. I mean, to put the cliche in there, courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means you're acting even when you are afraid. It's like, get in there and let's get it knocked out. So I love that origin story. That's fantastic. Thank you for running through that. Really, really thank you. So now, since you talked about OT Cert at the end, let's get into it. So you did a workshop at HOU.SEC.CON, an OT Cert workshop. We had kind of planned on putting that together as a kind of a larger thing that was just you and several other workshops. That didn't work out this year, and that was nobody. It's just the timing of it and everything. So we decided to pull you in to HOU.SEC.CON a day of the 2 days, and it was enormously popular. I was really, really excited to see how popular Sam was as well. Obviously, he lived in the daily life of OT. Um, Talk to us about what those workshops were like, and just kind of run through what the engagement was like during the workshops.
Yeah, I was very excited too. We ended up giving 2 workshops, and both of them, the room was practically full. We got a lot of OT CERT members out of those workshops, so thank you for that. Um, so so first let me just say what OT CERT is. So like I said, we provide free resources to create a foundational OT cybersecurity program. We launched in June of 22, so we're like 2.5 years old. We have over 2,200 members in 64 countries. And we have 56 free resources that we've put out, with 5 more coming in the next few weeks. We use the SANS 5 critical controls to guide those resources. So we started with OT incident response planning. For that, we provide a free OT ransomware tabletop exercise, an incident response plan toolkit, logging, lots of logging toolkits, 3 different ones. So it's all about how do you prepare in case you're hit with something. Second, we did secure remote access, because we see that being exploited so much.
Yep.
So many companies, especially during COVID, had to open up their access. I know at Rockwell, our CEO said no one goes into our plants unless they're essential, and only employees, no outsiders. Everyone else can do what they need to do remotely. And so everyone opened up access, but it wasn't necessarily secure, and it's still not secure.
Yeah.
So we spent 9 months on our secure remote access toolkit. And basically, we came out with a guide that says, no matter what tool you use, you have to make sure it's configured securely. So here are all the things that you need to check. And if you don't have a tool and you're going to hire a service provider to bring one in, here's language for your statement of work. You can just copy and paste this right into your statement of work. That way you'll make sure they're doing it securely. Third, we've been working on defensible architecture, which is a tough one. We've been working on that all year. We put out things like firewall misconfigurations, and that's what we covered at the workshop. That's kind of where we started, because our consultants go out and they keep finding the same firewall misconfigurations over and over again. And they just copy and paste from one customer report into the next. Like, yep, they have the same problems everybody else does. So they said, how about if we create a resource for OT CERT so that your members can go in and check all their firewall rules? So it's like low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So we talked about those. We have videos, we have toolkits, we have demonstrations, just we always say that other organizations tell you what to do. We tell you how to do it. We give you the tools that you can just take and use. And they're specifically created with that target audience of small and medium organizations with OT in mind. But interestingly enough, we have a lot of large, very large organizations that are members. And I've said to them, why are you a member? I know you have a CISO. I know you have an OT cybersecurity program. I know you have a platform in your plants or in your facilities. And they'll say, well, first of all, it's free stuff, and it's all created by Dragos, and it's really good. But secondly, a lot of them say, we are a large company of small fiefdoms. And every individual facility, the plant manager is the king of that fiefdom. And if they don't want to spend money on security, nobody's going to make them. So this way we can say, hey, here's free stuff. At least do this as a baseline.
It's a great resource. And it still amazes me I'll keep saying it. IT and OT, those same problems are still, that's why I love to toot our own horn a little bit, what we're trying to do at HOU.SEC.CON, because we are trying to bring that IT and the OT together, because there are so many problems that the OT industry is just finding out from a cybersecurity perspective that has been an IT problem for a long time. And yes, there are specializations that you have to worry about in the OT space, but firewall rules and firewall misconfigurations and any at the bottom and all of that stuff, that's the same thing we've been dealing with for a long time, that OT now has to deal with. The cooperation, I think just the cooperation between IT and OT will help in that. But I love that you're putting out the free resources. That's just fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that when we started that OT CISO group at Rockwell, the biggest issue was how do we get IT and OT working together? And now I'm at Dragos and I still get pulled into calls with prospective customers, and they still are having that same issue. And we'll have a customer and they'll say, well, we're going to buy Dragos, but we didn't tell our CISO yet. Or the CISO says, we're going to buy Dragos, but we didn't tell our plants yet. And I just think, oh, why don't you just kind of work together from the get-go? That's what you need to do.
Well, Sam remembers, what was that story at HOU.SEC.CON where we had an IT person that said, I don't know if they were on stage or they brought that up, where they were like, they went and talked to they were in OT, they talked to their IT peer, and their boss jumped on them and got like really mad. Do you remember that?
So I know who you're talking about, and I understand, and we see that quite often. But at the same time, I want to say, from an OT perspective, the engineers need to make it help IT understand what those processes and what the environment looks like. What does the business do, right? So again, coming back, it's on both sides. I always say it's on both sides of the firewall, and that's why we do HOU.SEC.CON. It's not just, yes, to your point, there's lots of great experience on the IT side that can help OT, but OT can also help IT understand what's prioritized, what's most important, and why they do what they do and why they're saying no to a lot of things.
Yeah, when I was at Rockwell, when I found out that I was responsible for securing those plants, I said, well, at that time there was nothing really out. The SANS 5 critical controls didn't exist. And I said, well, we just used the NIST CSF for our IT security strategy. Let's try it for OT. So we had a 4-day, all-day workshop with IT and OT. So we had networking, security, identity and access management, the CCERT, you name it. And then we had some plant managers and plant engineers. And we sat there. And when we first came in, IT was on one side of the table, OT was on the other. It was like a football game, and we were lined up to do battle. And so we started, and it was pretty contentious. We started with identify in the NIST CSF, started talking about asset management, and IT said, you have no asset management. You have old Windows XP machines in your plants. Why don't you get rid of those things? That's ridiculous. And the plant engineer said, if you want to give us $1 million to pay for a new stamper machine that it's connected to, then we'll get rid of it. But otherwise, that's gigantic stamper machine only runs with the XP machine. And then IT was like, oh, they just didn't understand. Oh, they're not stupid. There's a good reason for this. And then they said, well, geez, in that case, we really ought to kind of do network segmentation to isolate that XP machine because it's a big risk for you. And they started talking about how they could do that because OT said, oh, can you do that? Oh, okay, let's talk about doing that. And then they talked about patching, and IT said, well, we patch our computers every night. You come in for work in the morning and everything's working, but we can't touch your plants. And then the plant engineer said, well, you could bring down the plant. You can't just patch in OT. It's much different. And IT said, oh, okay. Again, they're not stupid. Oh, I see why. But we do have tools. So if we work together, we could help you push those patches out during scheduled downtime. And the engineer said, that would be fantastic because I hate going around and having to patch computers. I have better things to do when we have downtime. And so you could just see going from like this to actually understanding each other, respecting each other, and then putting their heads together and coming up with a strategy that both sides owned. And so until I retired, I actually was planning on retiring in 21, but I pushed it back a year because our OT strategy, our security strategy wasn't finished. And I wanted to finish that roadmap that we had put together in 2017. And so people would say to me, who owns that strategy, IT or OT? And I said, we both own it. We put it together. We created it together. We've been implementing it together for 5 years. It's jointly owned. And I think that's why it's so successful.
That's amazing. That's a great story that more people need to take a lesson from. It really, on both sides of the aisle. Well, Dawn, I don't know. This has been fantastic. Sam, you got any? I mean, I don't.
No, like I said, I get to work with Dawn. I have EC Slack access when I need to. She's not hanging out with her grandkids, which is totally understandable. They're much more fun than I am. But the OT cert, we'll put the link in the show notes. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you for being on here. But thank you for staying on in the industry and getting this out. Like, I don't know if you get that enough. Like, it is all these little pieces that, I mean, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? It is super important. And this work you're doing is super important. So thank you very, very much for sticking around.
There's no better retirement gig than this. I call myself the Security Fairy Godmother. I get to give away things for free to people that need it. It's fantastic.
Tell me you've got a wand. Tell me you've got a wand.
I don't have a wand.
Rob needs to get you a wand that's got ICS on the end of it or something.
Oh, yeah.
We can come up with something good.
So, Dawn, before we let you go, one last question. What is the Community Defense Program?
So we realized that our mission at Dragos is safeguarding civilization, and we can't do that if we don't help certain critical infrastructure organizations that we really all depend on for our civilization, like small utilities in water, electric, and natural gas. So about a year ago, we announced the community defense programs for any utilities, small utilities with under $100 million in annual revenue. They get our platform for free, threat hunting for free, OT cert, and our educational materials totally free. We also meet with them once a month so that we can kind of help them get the platform installed, learn how to use it. So this is a really important resource that we have offered. And again, we need to get the word out because these small utilities, they haven't heard about us. They're not paying attention to security. And yet they really need to use these free resources.
Dawn, that is a fantastic resource. There's just not a lot of companies that take their tagline seriously like that to protecting civilization. So that's fantastic. Thanks for going over that. I swear Dragos is not a sponsor of this. It's just y'all are doing really good stuff.
They do let me do this though. I do get to do this quite a bit.
There
right?
you go.
So, I will say.
I mean, if Rob wants to throw some money at us, no, I'm joking. No, I'm joking.
But everything I just talked about is totally free.
I know, that's
so
fantastic.
I'm not trying to sell anything.
No, that's what I love about it. I really do. I do love about it. So thank you for to Sam's point earlier. Thank you for not taking your energy and your passion away from the industry full time. It's really good. And I'm going to send Rob an email. We're going to get you a wand. We really need to get you a wand. As this OT security fairy godmother. Love that. All right. Well, any parting words, Dawn?
No, just please help spread the word. It's all free, and we just need to get the word out. We all owe it to each other. We have to all help in this fight. If we just work for a big company and we just worry about ourselves, we're not going to survive. We're all in this together.
I agree. A lot of people don't think about it at that level. They just, and it's not necessarily selfish, just them doing their job. But when you get that higher level process thinking of what you're actually doing, even in just a regular line cybersecurity role, it has a lot of importance to the whole world. I think that's a great way to put it. So thank you. Thank you for being here, Dawn.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sam, any parting final thoughts?
No, I mean, except for, hey, now you know why I'm still here at Dragos. Like, this is too much fun day to day, right?
Yeah, you've always spoken highly of the play, and the people that I've got to know over the years at Dragos have always impressed me. Everybody's got a passion for it, so it's a great organization. And appreciate y'all being a part of HOU.SEC.CON and letting Sam keep doing HOU.SEC.CON. That's a big one. So, all right, everybody. Well, this has been episode 30 of the HOU.SEC.CAST, HOU.SEC.CON podcast. We will see you on episode 31 very soon.